Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic. And today I'm going to be talking about the new Godfest as well as the brand new 7-star Godfest exclusive that is coming to North America tomorrow. So basically with Godfest, this might be a little redundant at this point in time, but we now have disclosed rolling rates, so now we can check to see the total roster or lineup of each Godfest that is occurring, as well as the the rolling rates down to the nearest 0.1 decimal places. So this at least keeps Gung Ho a little bit more honest, as well as enabling players just to be more informed when they actually roll in said Godfest. But I want to focus on the cards that are currently available, as well as the new 7-star Godfest exclusive Zela. So Zela is an incredibly powerful card that is basically kind of pushing the envelope of power creep, and the main issue is that she does have two distinct evolutions, but only one of them is really viable, and I'll explain more about her in detail as we progress through this video. So, at a glance, this Godfest actually has 21 and not 20 featured cards, and there will be the same standard 11 unfeatured. Just to reiterate that if a card is unavailable or not listed, it means you can't actually roll them, which is, I guess, a bit different compared to Godfest that occurred, say, like a year or so ago. So, in an ideal world, you want to line up Godfest, like the featured cards, with what you actually need to acquire. You want to try and hit as many possible targets at the same time to kind of give yourself the most value for your magic stones, because you don't necessarily want to roll the same one as a duplicate over and over again. While it may be useful to use for the trading post or monster exchange, you rather have unique ones overall, I'd say, just to increase the overall depth of your monster box. Now, generally speaking, 6-star Godfest exclusive have about a 0.6% chance of being rolled. Might be a little different with another card featured here, but some of them might be featured might be featured a little bit higher. Again, just check the disclosed rolling rates to be 100% certain. So, Zela is the newest Godfest exclusive to debut in Puzzle and Dragons, and she is the first 7-star card. Japan has a couple others, I believe, but this will be the first one that North America can actually acquire. Now, in my head, this is actually setting a kind of a dangerous precedent because of the fact that, well, we now have an even rarer card to try and roll for, which means she's going to be even harder to actually acquire, as well as being very powerful. Well, I guess on the bright side, she's not as overwhelmingly powerful as other options that are currently available. She's still pretty phenomenal overall, but I can see this becoming a problematic scenario where Gung Ho starts pushing power creep to 7-star Godfest exclusives. We already have such a tough time getting cards that are relevant enough to tackle endgame content, then they're making them even more rare to acquire. That's just a little problematic, I feel, overall, especially for a newer player who's going to be a bit more overwhelmed, or at least more behind by comparison to a player who's been playing for a longer period of time. Now, we've seen that Gung Ho just truly loves to push the envelope on like 6-star Godfest exclusives being the most powerful cards, as well as the fact that rare collab cards are also the most powerful things. So with a 7-star card now available, it might just start becoming to the point where it's going to be incredibly hard to roll the actually good cards in the game, say even like, say, 6 months to a year's time from now. But I'll put that all aside for now and just talk about Zela and what makes her so great and powerful. So in terms of pros, she has two distinct forms, and she either can kind of specialize for void damage penetration or 7 combos. And for the most part, the 7 combo form is almost always going to be the better choice overall because, well, it's like 7 combos are kind of the meta at this point in time. And the main problem with the void damage penetration option is that it does not have supplemental or offensive awakenings to complement to kind of propel or boost her damage to the level where you need to actually one-shot spawns. If you compare to, say, something like Yusuke is one of the best void damage penetration cards available because he has 2 7 combo awakenings, which means he can hit incredibly high amounts of damage and basically enables him to actually one-shot spawns, whereas this Zela here will have a much harder time overall by comparison. But aside from that, they have 1100 weighted stats. They have an amazingly powerful active skill that has multiple components to it. It makes a board of hearts and wood orbs, which is incredibly powerful. Like it's arguably the most powerful bi-elemental board changer, assuming your team is all one color, as well as providing +2 combo count. So you're just going to be hitting an explosive amount of combos, which is great for a wide variety of teams, as well as being able to remove locked orb status. So basically you have so many multiple components to this active skill that are actually amazingly powerful and valuable at this point in time. She's also bind immune, and In her 7 combo awakening form, she actually has 3 7 combo awakenings, which translates into 8 times personal damage, as well as a follow-up attack awakening. So she's kind of combining all these great elements you want in a single card, along with the fact that her active skill makes hearts as well as wood orbs. So you can make that follow-up attack, you can make many combos because the +2 combo count. Things are going to get, you're going to have explosive amounts of damage. She's also animated, and she does have a reasonable leader skill, although it is kind of orb hungry. I'll explain a bit more of that in a moment. In terms of cons, wood is a less desirable color overall. If Zela was light-based, oh my goodness, it would be like crazy bonkersly strong. Like, it'd be like the dream sub for so many different teams, potentially. But unfortunately, she is not light-based, so it's just, wood is just an awkward color overall at this point in time. She only has a single skill boost, which can be a little problematic when used in conjunction with her longer base cooldown. It has a 16 turn cooldown, which can be at least harder to either at least charge up or even inherit over. May not really want to inherit over top because it's still a very powerful active skill. So, like I already mentioned, the 7 combo form is by far the stronger option because it has a regular follow attack. So it's like, I think it might be the only 7 combo awakening, triple 7 combo awakening card with the follow-up attack. I might be wrong, but I feel like that she is the only one. So that's solving many problems on a team with a single card, which is great. And presently speaking right now, Edward, Yusuke, and Diablos are considered the top 3 best leaders in the game. And the biggest drawback with Zela is that she can't be utilized as efficiently on those teams. Yusuke teams cannot utilize her because she doesn't have a light attribute, as well as her active skill being inappropriate. And Edward teams don't necessarily want her either. And that is because, she's not light, so she's not going to be benefiting from his base active skill. Her own active skill is not going to help the majority of his team because most of his team is probably going to be light-based as well. So it's a little problematic. Still can use her, but not as ideal overall. And then Diablos teams, well, they generally like combo-based cards. So Zela does fit very well on Diablos-based teams, but she is a little bit more restrictive overall. And yes, you can use her on other combo-based teams, but again, none of those combo-based teams are as potent and powerful compared to Edward, Yusuke, and Diablos. They're kind of like the holy trinity of leaders at this point in time. But you still can definitely make use of her. Like, if you have a Blue Hunter team, stick her on there. It's going to be good in the sense that you have high damage output, and Blue Hunter can use a wide variety of subs. But again, it's just not as perfect fit for the most part overall, because again, green does not have a premier leader at this point in time. Yes, you may argue that Kaede can use her, which is great, but Kaede does suffer from the fact that they have inconsistency issues because, well, they don't actually have a reliable enough activation requirement, because two wood combos with no Skyfalls can be a little problematic to achieve overall. So Zela still can definitely be used, but she can't be used as widely and as proficiently as something like, say, Yusuke as a sub, or even, say, like Amatsu as a sub. Like, it's just not as perfect overall. Now, if we were to look at her void damage penetration form, like I already mentioned before, it does not have any supplemental offensive awakenings to boost her damage to high enough levels to actually one-shot things, so that can be problematic. Like, yes, she can use strong latent killers, but again, well, you don't have enough personal damage anyways. Latent killers are not going to necessarily solve that problem either. As well as having a super follow-up attack awakening, which is arguably pretty horrible because, well, who wants to form a box of hearts when you could have a column instead? Like, it's more orb hungry by comparison. As a leader, Zela in her 7 combo awakening form does give players the potential to have amazing amounts of damage as well as strong activation overall. She has a pretty nice leader skill in the sense that she has damage reduction when above 50% health, which basically screams like Edward style, as well as giving wood cards passive 4 times damage. But the main problem is her damage doesn't ramp up fast enough unless you're matching multiple wood combos. And that's where she differs greatly from Edward. Edward has amazing damage from basically any given board. Hit 6 combos, you hit your max multiplier. Really, you hit 7 anyways for the 7 combos. But the point of the matter is Zela does not have as consistent damage activation compared to Edward. And that is problematic, as well as the fact that her active skill doesn't have a self-heal. It's a little bit of a drawback, whereas Edward's active is a self-heal. But regardless of that, like, it still can be a reasonable leader overall, and you have to remember that both leaders have 777 combo awakening, so they have 8 times personal damage, so they are going to be dealing massive amounts of damage themselves, so that can definitely help alleviate some of the damage constraints when you don't have multiple wood combos, but even then, it's not necessarily going to be enough, unfortunately, and that's why she's going to be not as desirable as a leader overall. But in conclusion, still a great card. So this Godfest exclusive tier list is my own making. Again, take these with a grain of salt. They're not absolute truths. Just use them as a starting point, and it tries to take in consideration their value across all platforms, like as a leader, sub, or inherit. So Zela naturally debuts at S because, well, it's a 777 combo awakening card with follow attack and an amazing active skill. Pretty nice for the most part. And the only change that I made was Ilm dropping from A to B. I'll explain that in a moment. And this is what the Godfest with the current roster looks like in terms of rankings. So all of these are the featured cards, the 21 featured cards, as well as where they kind of fall onto my tier list. Now, I've dropped Ilm down from A to B, mostly because we're not having ranking dungeons. I kind of thought that when we got the, what was it called? First pad challenge tournament, I thought we'd get the other 3 afterwards, but we didn't, which was kind of strange because Japan got this nice series of 6% crowns 4 times in a row, but we only had 1. Kind of unfortunate. So Ilm's value really was kind of shining or hoping for that casino gameplay style where you basically use 7x6, use Ilm, and swipe and pray you get lots of combos. It's incredibly powerful, but we need a ranking dungeon for that to actually work out. So, like, this Godfest is still reasonable for the most part. It is reasonably top-heavy overall, but again, it's nothing super stellar or special because, well, we don't have necessarily super boosted rates, and, well, do you need these cards? You probably do for the most. Some people may need those cards, but they're not as like pressing overall because again, collabs tend to be the strongest place to acquire cards. And on that note, the Godfest exclusive trading post or monster exchange system is basically a way for you to kind of utilize your 6-star Godfest exclusives to trade in for those rare and valuable collab cards. We've seen how valuable it was for the basically trading in or exchanging in for Yusuke. I did that for both of my accounts. There's no way I could roll him on both of my accounts, but I could exchange in for him. And now both my accounts have a top tier leader and I can waltz through all the challenging content that Gung-Ho really has to offer at this point in time. So really acquiring 6-star Godfest exclusives are basically used as monster exchange fodder overall at this point in time. Yes, you still use them as subs, but a lot of them are now basically fodder, especially the lesser used ones or the lower ranked ones. Now, as with every Godfest, Pantheon and 5-star Godfest exclusive highlights kind of are dropped down to about a 0.64% chance. Again, check the disclosed rolling rates because things might be slightly different from Godfest to Godfest. But it does make them harder to roll out during Godfest, but it's still better to roll during Godfest than outside of Godfest because you at least have the chance to hit a 6-star Godfest exclusive, which is used for trading in for Monster Exchange, and they generally are stronger overall for the most part. So again, you should really be rolling in Godfest. You're watching a video about Godfest, so you probably know that already. Now, in terms of featured cards in the Rare Machine, Gung-Ho hasn't published anything on their Facebook or Twitter as what's going to be featured in the Rare Machine alongside the Godfest, so I don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately, so just check what is under this disclosed rolling rates and just see what is available. May or may not influence your decision. So I did already mention how collabs are starting to become the norm for what is powerful in this game, and that is kind of problematic because newer players can't necessarily roll in collabs because they don't offer enough they don't have enough monster box depth to kind of justify doing so, because regular Reg Machine has the depth and helps fill out holes in your monster box more easily compared to collabs. But then on that same note, collab cards tend to have the strongest cards available, as well as, again, patching up holes for very niche and specific circumstances. It's not to say that those niche and circumstantial uses are bad, it's just that you can't necessarily replicate them in the Reg Machine. But for the most part, Reg Machine has better base value overall than a lot of collabs, because most collabs only have a few top prize chase cards and everything else is just bad filler at this point in time. So again, with Monster Exchange, we can kind of bridge the gap in terms of monster magic stone saving. Like for, again, I exchanged for Yusuke, I didn't roll in the collab, so I saved myself a ton of magic stones and I didn't actually have to gamble in acquiring him. So again, it all depends on what you need on your individual monster box and needs, whether a Godfest or a collab is more valuable to roll in. So, in conclusion, this Godfest is reasonable overall. Like, it does have a reasonable roster, but it's, again, nothing special. It's probably not going to have, like, super boosted rates, along with, well, we might need to save our magic stones for future events because, well, we don't necessarily have any officially confirmed collabs or events coming to North America. Like, yes, Pad Academy's coming, but it's okay. It's not that spectacular overall. And the only kind of possible chance of something truly new and exciting coming would be the Magic the Gathering collab that is going to be happening in Japan. We do not know if it's going to come to North America, but there is a chance it might possibly have a simultaneous release because they have done that in the past for some events, and Magic the Gathering is a very strong following in North America, so it may not necessarily surprise me if we do. Again, it's all speculation. It's not necessarily confirmed or going to happen, but it might be something. Maybe, maybe not. So, Let me know what you think about this Godfest in the comments below, as well as what you feel about Zela and the first of possibly many 7-star Godfest exclusives. Hopefully all the Mantastic day. Wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.